Hi, I'm Jen Mason.
And I'm Julie Faithan Balzer, and this is the Mixed Media Workshop.
Welcome to our warm and felted episode,
where Jen's going to start us off with a great felting tip.
I have a quick tip. Save all your little bits of wool roving and felt them together, and you can use those little bits for the centers of your next felted bead.
And there's lots more on today's episode. We are talking about dyeing, and not the kind that you do when they bury you 6 feet under, but the kind that you do with RIT dye. And I know that when we first started talking about dyeing, I was like excited but nervous because I am not a person who's ever actually played around with it, partially because I live in an apartment and don't have easy access to a washing machine, and I always felt like that was something you had to do with dyeing. But Miss Jennifer is so smart that she is going to show me all about it.
You need some water, some dye, and stuff you've got in your kitchen, so we're good. If you want to do like a whole sweater or a blanket, you're going to need to do something else, but I'm not here to help you with that. So these are some that we already dyed, and I just wanted to point out here the variation. So these are a whole bunch of buttons that haven't been dyed, and they're all different. They're all, you would call a white button, but when you dye them, they're all going to take something different. So what I really like about this process
that was all the same color and they were all dyed at the same time.
It was these all dyed at the same time and they all took it differently. So it's a surprise, right? You don't know what you're going to get. But, you know, if I knew that I really liked the color of this one, I would get more of that one and dye it. And I would know it takes the dye in a different way. We also have some really great felt. This is felt from EK Success. It's super thick.
I thought it was batting. It was so thick, actually.
So thick. And this here is just a piece of fiber that you would use for felting. It's wool roving. So they all take the dye really well. These are natural fibers. These are obviously not natural fibers. They're plastic, but it all works. So to start, I need your help, assistant. Can you give me about a cup of hot water?
Gosh, I have to actually know what a cup looks like.
Well, I'll tell you
Why
when
don't
to
you just
stop.
tell me when to stop? Because otherwise I think I'm going to be stupid about this whole thing.
About halfway full. How about that?
How about okay, halfway full I can do. That one I can go a little bit more
That's good.
There you go.
There we go.
Who knew that was a cup of water?
Yeah, well,
and I noticed also you're wearing gloves and you have your surface protected.
You don't have to do any of those things.
Okay.
But your hands and your surface will be the color you're dyeing if
now,
you don't do that.
Now, this is boiling water, or could you just use hot water from the tap?
I like to use it boiling. I actually have an instant hot water heater that I use, so it's not quite boiling, and it works just fine. But hot water from the tap, unless you've got your settings set really high, unsafe, I would heat it up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay? And then we're going to add the dye. And here's the interesting thing about the RIT dyes is they actually encourage you to mix and match your colors. So we're only using one color today, and you can use a little bit. We could just do a little.
So like a spoonful, a generous spoonful.
Or we can do a lot. And depending how much you put in is how deep your color is going to be. And I'm just going to move this away because you will be cherry red very soon if I don't.
Are you saying that I'm klutzy? Because you're right.
No, I'm saying I'm going to be klutzy. So we'll set that aside out of the way. We're just going to stir this up. It doesn't take long. And normally, if you read the directions, they tell you to get your any fabric wet. I'm going to throw in all of our buttons there. And they tell you to get your fabric wet. But what I like is for it to look like it's hand-dyed. I don't want it to look like I just bought it, because why would I go to the trouble of making it?
So for an even tone, if you wanted it to all be exactly the same color, then you could get it wet first. Now, would you have to get it wet in hot water, or could it be any water?
Just wet. You just want to get those fibers ready to accept the dye. But what I want here for this is for them not to be ready all evenly so that I get some unevenness. And I could actually sit, you can see I don't have my wool roving or my wool felt in there all the way. I could just let that sit for a second and then push a little more of it in. Then push
so
a
that
little
it'll all
more
sort of get a variegated look. So you really get to control it in a sort of haphazard, I guess you could say, way.
Exactly.
That's
so
very cool.
How long you leave this in here?
That was my very next question, Jen Mason. You're so smart.
I know. Okay, so I want to tell you the first tip. If you are going to do wool roving, you do not want to agitate it too much because you will make felt out of it before you want to make felt out of it. I have some paper towel here. We're going to take this out here. This is where the handy glove part come in. I know you were like, Jen, you haven't gotten a drip on you, but now I will. So I'm lightly squishing it. If I really squeeze it a lot.
Will you squeeze all the dye out of it then?
Well, no, if I wanted it darker than this, I would put it back in and leave it in there. But no, what I would start to do is agitate it and make all those fibers stick together. And I want it to stay dry. So we're going to take that one out.
And you could certainly do like a big vat of it, and like some of it comes out early, some of it stays in later, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, yes. And I am going to take this out now. I'm going to, you'll see it'll look pink, right?
Okay.
But if I wanted to look darker, I could do that.
Just
If I
leave it
wanted a
in
little more
longer.
purple, I could just throw some purple. It's really kind of forgiving, but it's also hard to, it's not an exact science.
Is there a time limit? Like if you left this and went to bed or something like that,
that is.
would you be in trouble in some way?
No, I think it would just get to the as dark as it could get with that mixture, that ratio of water. And then the tricky part
Is
I'm just
finding
gonna
the buttons
go
in the
for
bottom
the
of the
beads.
container?
Yes.
Oh, beads would be a cool thing to dye.
Beads are great. You can
That'd
dye
be
paper.
awesome.
So these
Oh,
all
paper.
took
That's so
different.
easy.
Let's see, there's a few more in there.
I didn't even
See if
think
I can
about
get a
using
couple
dye
more.
that way. And actually, I'm thinking
Yeah.
that you could totally take some of the leftover, put into an empty mister bottle or something like that,
Yeah.
and use it as a spray ink that you could use, and certainly would be fabric permanent, right? Because RIT is meant for fabric. And that would be a
Exactly,
great way, because
yeah.
I was just thinking, oh, you're going to throw away all this lovely dye, right? Now, are there any rules about disposing of the dye? Anything safety-wise that we need to know?
I like to dilute it as I'm throwing it down the drain, but no, because you can use it in the washer. You know, that's where it would go anyways. You can't pull it back out of a washing machine. And I just want to point out that these are all different. Some took it a lot. That one's still a little, some drips on it here. But we have an entire range of colors on there. And again, if this is cherry red, if I left it in there or I put a little more in the ratio, I could get a really nice dark red. Or I can mix my blues and purples. I can get all sorts of different colors from this. But, you know, I really want people to not be afraid.
I have to tell you,
try
I
this.
have been afraid, and I did not want to try it. And now I'm super excited, and I want to shove you out of the way.
All right.
And I want
I'm
to
leaving now.
try it
I'm going to go.
myself. Bye. But leave me the gloves, please. Okay. So I hope that you will try some dyeing too, and make sure to post your projects online, and don't forget to hashtag it. Thanks so much. When you think of an evil crafting genius, I hope that you think of this woman next to me, because Jen has, well, I guess not that evil, but it is so cool, and it's going to make me have to buy more stuff, of course, because she is going to teach us how to take a sweater from the thrift store or your attic or wherever, I guess, and turn it into felted wool.
You know, this is kind of a funny class. So some people actually can do this on their own. Their husbands have accidentally done this to them already. But if you really want to do a felted sweater, I'm going to show you how. And I just want to say that you can start with something like this, which is a store-bought, it's the EK Success felt. It's beautifully thick, right?
So thick. I love
It's nice.
this.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
other craft felts, but this stuff comes all nicely rolled up. It's really made for felting projects. Bless you.
Pardon me.
And not for necessarily, you know, kids' crafts or something like that. But you can get something that looks like this, which looks very similar, but it is a sweater. It is a former
Is
sweater.
it really? It feels the same.
Yeah, because here, I'll show you. There is the ribbing, and you can cut little bits about it. And because it's felt, it doesn't unravel like a sweater would. Please do not try cutting a sweater before you unravel it. So let's talk about how we do this, because it's really, really simple. And like I said, somebody in your family has probably done this with your favorite sweater already. But what you need to do is introduce heat and friction.
So this collection of what looks like children's sweaters to me is in fact not children's sweaters.
No, these are all adult-sized sweaters, and some are wool and some are cashmere. You need something that has a natural animal-based fiber, and you also want to check your labels. Well, let me back up. You want to go to a thrift store, because I don't think I paid more than $3.99 for any of these sweaters, which is really great. But as you're going through the thrift store, which is where I like to go and not your husband's closet, I check, you know, I'm looking for labels. I'm looking to see, I'll bring this one in to show you, Julie, that this says 100% wool. What you do not want is 100% superwash, because that is a magic wool that has been introduced for the sake of us who have had our sweaters shrunken, and it won't shrink. It's made with a wool.
Oh, so it'll actually say superwash. This tells you how
Superwash.
often I read my labels.
Superwash. I have no idea what it means beyond do not use ones that say superwash.
Okay.
You also don't want to use anything that says like 50% wool, 50% acrylic, because it'll only shrink 50%, or it might not shrink at all. Anything that has a blend is questionable that it's going to want to work with you. The other thing to keep in mind as you're doing this is to be open-minded, because things will not shrink in the same directions. It's sort of like, you know, shrink plastic shrinks a little more in one direction than the other direction. It depends on how this was knit. Most of these are machine knit, but if it was knit loosely or the sleeves are done a little differently, it's not going to be like an exact replica in smaller form. So,
But that's the fun. It's the surprise.
yes, the surprise is awesome. Oh, but it's very easy. I mean, seriously, you need a washing machine, and it needs to have a hot water setting. If it has that sanitized setting, even better, which is, you know, the one you use for when
you're in a biohazard suit
Yes.
and you're worried about sanitizing.
When all your kids have the flu and you don't want to get it, you put everything in there. It all is too small for them, but you know, there are no more germs. So you put it in the wash.
Do you use soap?
Yes.
And just like it's a regular load of laundry.
Like a regular load of laundry,
Okay.
as hot as you can get it.
Okay.
And you might need to do it more than once. You might choose to do it more than once. It will keep getting a little bit smaller. It might shrink to half size and then just go like a 1/4 inch if you do it a second time. So it might not be worth it. But the big important thing that you need to do is to think of your like colors. And I'm trying to look at one of mine here. This guy isn't too bad, but I put this in with the other ones. And so if you have a light color in with a dark color, what you're asking this washing machine to do is to dance with your fabric. And it's bringing all the fibers in tighter and tighter and tighter. But all of the sweaters are doing that. And it's going to start grabbing little bits from this sweater.
Oh,
and so
I
you'll get this
see.
beautiful pink felted wool that has little bits of black dots from your other sweater. So it's good to do like all your darks together, just like laundry, all your lights together.
So because I don't do laundry very often, but B, I'm just confused. So you don't have to put it in the dryer is what you're saying. Like the
are gonna put it
actual
in the dryer,
felting
too.
though happens in the washing machine.
Both will help. So the next
Okay.
step is to put it in the dryer. But for me, I get it to the size I want it.
Okay.
And which is really, I think for all of these sweaters, it was one trip in the washer. A long trip, not the little short, super quick one, like I
Okay.
need my clothes immediately. So you put it in the washer, you do put it in the dryer as well and dry the heck out of that. And that helps even more make this more of a solid material and less as little fibers that are just interwoven together. You will get things like this. I told you little bits might stick to this. And make sure the camera has this, but this has started to felt to itself.
Oh, interesting. And no, you're just sort of
I'm
yanking
just
it
pulling
apart.
I'm actually, it's not hard to pull. I'm just pulling it slowly so you can see that it was stuck to itself there.
Interesting.
So that will happen. Sometimes, you know, it'll get stuck to itself like this. You'll just have to like pull it back open. I don't think any of the other ones have done this, but it's nice and solid. And the idea here is this: then you would just cut off your arms and open this up.
Right, again, because as much as these look like children's sweaters, and you can certainly use them
Yeah.
as a child's coat or sweater or something like that, what the purpose is really to get this big, beautiful sheet
custom.
of felt. And like if we bring this felt that you've done back in here, if I saw this big thing, I would never know that this started as a sweater. I just think what a gorgeous
Yeah.
color of felt to use for something.
Yeah, and that you can't find in the store. And
It's
good to look
so
for
cool.
stripes. Because that will give you a felt you cannot buy in the store, definitely.
That's really, I can imagine all sorts of really cool patterns like Aztec-y and
yes.
all sorts of neat stuff. Oh gosh. And you know what you could totally do is like a wool poncho or something like that, because
yeah,
then you
that'd be
wouldn't
great.
have
You
sleeves to
big-
deal with.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Or can you use a
I'm gonna
blanket?
beat you to the
Or do
thrift
blankets
store.
not work?
No, you could do a blanket. Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Christmas sweater.
You could definitely do that ugly Christmas sweater. We can make little ugly Christmas sweater party gifts. With
Actually, I think it would be a really cool thing. You could like you could actually make like a felted like quilt out of ugly Christmas sweaters that you've shrunk down. Anyway,
Yes,
so many
exactly.
possibilities.
I know. Well, we'll go to the thrift store. We'll take a trip.
Good. I'm glad, and I hope that you're going to go to the thrift store too. And when you felt those sweaters, be sure to post your pictures online and hashtag it. Thanks so much.
What kind of face are you making? Smiling or like
I'm making a
Charlie's-
sexy Charlie's
Okay, good.
Angel pout.
Okay, good. That's what I was thinking too.
1.3. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. It's time for She Said.
She said.
Okay, so in She Said, basically Jen and I get an assignment and we see how we each interpret it. So this time it was to felt an accessory. And I'm wearing my accessory. Jen's wearing her accessory. We are
beautiful.
felted and accessorized.
All right. So
Okay.
why don't you show us your
Okay,
accessory?
so I'm going to use a felting machine, which is an awesome, awesome tool, and it has all these needles. This is 12
Ouch.
needles. I know, right?
But it's got a guard.
Luckily it's got the guard, so you can't hurt yourself with it. And I'm going to start with a piece of felt. You don't have to. You can start with roving or something like
Okay.
that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little piece of this roving, and I'm just going to pull out. And when I say little, I mean it's actually quite little. And it doesn't matter to me that there's another color mixed in there at all. I'm just going to place it onto my felt. Now, this has a pedal just like a sewing machine, so I'm going to to place my roving and my felt underneath there. I'm going to step on the pedal. It's just like a sewing machine. Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to go ahead and felt in there. Now, I'm going to move relatively slowly or I will break a needle. And all I'm doing is going over the roving, and that is now integrating those fibers, because those needles are actually small barbed needles, and they're not like a regular needle, so they're pushing there in there. Now, I'm going to do something that I like to call over felting, which is in a single area. I'm going to just keep going over and over and over it. Now, why am I doing that? Because that's going to create a little bump. And if you look at the little fascinator that I have on my head, it has little bumps. Now, at any point, I can stop and I can add more roving, either in the same color or another color. And if you want to raise the needles out of there, you just turn the hand wheel, pull it out, add your more roving, go back in, step on that pedal again, and then we're going to felt again.
Could you overdo it?
Oh, yes, you're supposed to.
Okay.
Now, if you get a hole through there, guess what you do? It's the easiest repair on earth. You just add more roving, and you patch that like you patch a roof. So I'm just going to continue to over felt in this area, working in a slow, small circle, because again, if I move too quickly, I'll break a needle, which again, it's not a big deal. If you break a needle, you just replace it. But I'm just going over and over and over and over and over and over in the same area.
Excellent.
And when I pull it out of the machine, again, turning that hand wheel just to get the needles out of there, what you'll see is from this side, which is the reverse side, can you see?
That yellow came through.
Yeah, the yellow came
Gorgeous.
through in a soft blended way, and I've got this kind of nodule bump, which I think
just
is
keep
really
doing that
cool. So I
over
just
and
keep
over.
doing it over and over. And again, if you look at this side, it looks very different from the reverse side than it does on this side. And I like to add lots and lots of colors, as you can see from my fabulous
love
fascinator. That, you know, you just keep going and having fun and playing with it. But if you like that monochromatic look, you can totally get that too with this.
love
So
that.
just remember, do your felting, machine felting badly, poorly, over felting,
Excellent.
and that's how you get the little bumps. Do it bad, and you'll get an awesome result.
All right, so I'm going to do a way that you don't do it bad. I'm the good girl way.
You are so good.
Not really. So I'm making this little cuff today. Super easy to do. Again, I'm using a strip of felt. I'm actually using a strip of felted sweater, but you could use a strip of felt like that. And
So
I am
cool.
using some roving that came in a little package like this.
I like that variation in color in that. That's really pretty.
Yeah, isn't it great? So you get like this great kit of little colors. So I can pull out and they just pop out like that. I am going to start just with a little hand needle so that I don't worry about things moving there. Basically, I'm using a little bit. I'm using even smaller little bit.
This is almost like basting.
It is, yeah, exactly. It's holding it in place. It's a little bit of spit.
I wish you had really liked that.
All right, so I'm just going to put my little circle on there. I'm going to put my little dot on there. I could do just my circle.
So this is also cut from a piece of sweater felt.
It is. It's cut from the same sweater. So all I'm trying to do is, oops, and I'm going right through it. So I'm going to go through this a couple times and see how that like holds
It
it
attaches
on.
it.
Yeah.
It bastes it on there. So in this, basically, this single needle tool that you're using is the same kind of barbed needle that you find in this machine.
It's one of 12 of those. Yes. All right. I am going to switch places
Okay,
with you.
let's Josie-Do over here.
And you'll see this is really fluffy. This is like so fluffy right now. But when I put it in, you're going to get something much more condensed like that.
It integrates it into
Yeah.
it. It's a kind of a cool way to make your own fabric.
It is a cool way to make your own fabric. I love it. But now I just want to go over it enough to get it all blended in and not to create any bumps.
So you don't want to create the lovely bumps that I did.
And I just want to show them what I just did there with the needles. It's a special trick, which is just if I, while the needles are going, pull out, I don't have to worry
you don't
about
have to do the hand. That is a really good tip. Thank you. Thank you.
So I just continue to do that for the whole bracelet. I'm going to pull this one off now.
P.S. This is so fast. It's faster than sewing. I mean, when you're just integrating this stuff, that's, I mean, you could not have sewed on those little pieces of felt.
You could not. I added little buttons. That took more. That one button took longer than the whole bracelet to make. And I just cut a little slit with some scissors because it's felt, so it doesn't fray. So a little button.
I never thought about that. So
No
that you never have to do a
buttonhole
buttonhole
making.
thing.
Yeah.
That is
And
cool.
that's it.
I love that idea. I'm going to totally steal your
All right, you submit, and I'm going to
thing.
make a fascinator.
Well, there you go. Well, we'll both be glamorous stealth girls. Well, thank you so much, and I hope that you will take up our challenge and try a little she said of your own and needle felt yourself an accessory. And do not forget to hashtag it. Thanks so much.
Welcome to this art takeaway where we are taking a look at a piece that Julie made, all covered in hearts and circles. Can you tell us a little bit more about this piece?
Yeah, so the base of it is painted canvas, and then these are hand felted hearts. I just used some roving, and you can see a little bit of Angelina fiber in there. And then I cut out some words out of book pages and glued them right onto those felted hearts, which I did stitch down to the canvas quilt base. And before you even ask, I have to say I've actually already stolen from this piece. I've already done an art takeaway.
Oh, okay.
Which is the design that I painted in the back is one of my all-time favorite motifs, and I actually made it into a stencil, which I then commercially marketed it for the Crafters Workshop. It's called the Wonky Circle stencil. So I totally used this to do that, which is actually the way that a lot of my art actually gets used, or that I end up taking it away. So how about you?
Well, so now I can say I've used that Wonky Circle stencil, so I've already taken it away as well. But actually, this is interesting. Listening to you talk about it, I didn't even notice the Angelina there. I just felt like this was such a bright piece, and now I'm actually realizing why I feel like it's such a bright piece. And, you know, I don't use a lot of shiny and glitter, but I really feel like I am drawn to it. And I like that this is so subtle, I didn't even notice. I just felt the brightness of it. So I'm definitely going to try to take away adding some of that. Now, maybe I'll do it in the form of Lumiere paints or maybe some Pearl-Ex, but I definitely am going to try that. I also am really liking how you mix your colors in your felting, and in possibly an entirely different way. I think I'm going to try to see what I can do, because it's almost like you've built up layers. This almost feels like encaustic to me, except I can see that it's felt. It's layer and layer and sort of ethereal, and a little bit like that encaustic, that cloudy sort of lovely look. So I'm really loving those two things.
I love it when you take something that is in one material and convert that idea over to another one, and that's at the heart of mixed media, don't you think?
I totally agree. And we want to know what you take away. Let us know.
You know?
Yes.
This makes my uterus hurt. No, I'm serious. Because doesn't it? It looks like a tiny baby.
So cute. I know. I had so much fun making that.
Why does this one feel so soft still?
That one is a cashmere. And this pink one is cashmere too, but
It doesn't feel nice.
I think this one was just woven tighter.
I'm going to sleep.
All right, yeah, I think you can nap too. I'm going to take a nap after yours. Hurry up. Finish your nap. Okay.
Okay. Think she'll notice if I take off the sweaters.
All right, Julie, seriously.